Welcome to today's Explainer. We're cutting straight through the hype and getting to what actually matters for your daily productivity. Look, it's 2026, and the AI landscape is totally dominated by two massive heavyweights, Claude Pro and ChatGPT Plus. You've seen the spec sheets, you've heard the marketing spin, but if you're using these tools to actually do your job, build your business, or crush your coursework, which one genuinely deserves your hard-earned $20 a month? Today, we're looking past the benchmarks and focusing entirely on real-world work.
Because here is the absolute truth right out of the gate. Both of these tools are excellent and both of them cost exactly the same amount. So if you're looking for a simple, universal answer that one is magically superior to the other for everyone, yeah, you aren't going to find it. The true, honest answer is a definitive, it depends. And today, I'm going to explain exactly what it depends on based on your specific, everyday workload.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to break this down round by round. Coding, writing, long documents where ChatGPT dominates, and finally, the actual verdict.
All right, round one, coding, the clearest gap.
When we look at independent 2026 testing for functional accuracy on coding tasks, Claude is hitting roughly 95% accuracy compared to ChatGPT's 85%. This is where the performance gap between the two is the most easily measurable, and it's a gap you'll feel immediately if you spend your days in a code editor. Now, the numbers are interesting, sure, but the why is what really matters. Claude consistently reasons more carefully through tricky bugs, complex architectural decisions, and multi-file refactors. When you're coding, getting it right on the first try can save you literally hours of painful debugging. Claude just makes way fewer of those cascading mistakes. And because of that precision, surveys of working developers show that a strong majority, around 70%, actually prefer Claude for their specific coding use cases. It has rapidly become the developer's darling in the AI space. But there is one more massive reason for this dominance.
Claude Pro ships with something called Claude Code. This is a terminal-based coding agent, and let me tell you, it's a total game changer. It reads your actual code base, edits files, and runs commands locally, right on your machine. Your proprietary code never gets uploaded to some cloud container to be worked on. If you write code for a living, or even as a serious hobby, having a local, privacy-respecting agent that executes right from your terminal is a huge, tangible point in Claude's favor.
Moving on to round two, writing, the human touch.
Now, while this race is a bit closer than coding, putting their default outputs side by side shows that Claude simply reads, well, more human. Professional writers repeatedly note that for things like corporate communication, reports, and technical documentation, Claude's structure and register come out much cleaner. ChatGPT, it's definitely competent, but it has a very recognizable style. It defaults to certain prose tics, those flowery words and repetitive sentence structures that a good editor can usually spot in about a single paragraph.
The crucial point here is this. ChatGPT's writing is genuinely good, especially if you're highly fluent in prompt engineering and specifically instructed to avoid its default tics. But if you're publishing writing under your own name and you have minimal time to edit, Claude is going to serve you way better straight out of the box. It just requires significantly less cleanup to sound like a real, thoughtful human being.
Let's hit round three, mastering long documents, context windows.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer, massive scale we're talking about here. This might just be the most underrated difference between the tools for professional, heavy-duty use. It's all about how much information the AI can hold in its memory during a single conversation. Claude features a massive 1 million token context window. To put that in perspective, tokens are roughly equivalent to parts of words. So 1 million tokens, that is a staggering amount of data to process all at once.
In practical, everyday terms, this means you can hand Claude an entire codebase, a massive, dense legal contract, or a full book-length manuscript in a single prompt. It can hold all of that in its memory and accurately reason across the entire thing. You no longer have to awkwardly chunk a long document into 5 different pieces and pray the model remembers what was in part 1 by the time you're asking it questions about part 4. Teams that work with long-running technical or legal documents cite this repeatedly as their deciding factor, completely independent of the coding or writing quality we just talked about.
All right, round four. Let's pivot to where ChatGPT dominates, the ecosystem pivot.
To keep this explainer completely impartial, we have to recognize where ChatGPT absolutely crushes the competition. Just look at this ecosystem breadth. ChatGPT features native image generation through DALL-E. It has incredible video generation capabilities through Sora. It boasts a genuinely fully featured conversational voice mode. And it has a massive library of custom GPTs and third-party integrations built by an enormous community. Claude, it doesn't generate images natively at all. Its ecosystem is much more limited. If your daily work involves generating visual content, making videos, or if you rely heavily on talking to your AI through voice interaction, ChatGPT is far and away the more complete tool today. It's not even a close second in this category.
Finally, round 5, the actual verdict: price and workload.
So, how do you actually make your choice? First, let's clear up the money question. Both Claude Pro and ChatGPT Plus cost exactly $20 a month. Now, Claude does offer a modest discount down to about $17 a month if you pay annually, but fundamentally, this isn't a budget decision. The price tag is basically identical.
Instead, it is entirely a workload decision. Look, in 2026, the frontier models from these companies are within a few percentage points of each other on general overall benchmarks. Anyone telling you that one is definitively universally better for every single person simply hasn't tested them against your specific daily tasks. If you live in code editors and giant 100-page documents, Claude is your winner for sure. If you need images, video, voice features, and custom apps, ChatGPT is your winner. For everything in between, it often just comes down to your personal preference for how the AI talks to you.
Which leads me to this. If you take away just one thing from this explainer, I want you to follow these 3 steps. Identify your most common, most tedious weekly task. Don't use a generic demo. Use your real work. Then run that exact same task side by side on both Claude and ChatGPT for 1 full week. Only after you see how they handle your specific edge cases and your specific style should you commit your $20 to a subscription. Let the real results decide for you.
And that wraps up our deep dive into these 2 powerhouses. In our next explainer, we're going back to basics, covering the most common AI mistakes that are quietly costing beginners hours of their time, so you'll definitely want to catch that. Until then, I want to leave you with this. Based on what we've covered and the work you do every day, Claude or ChatGPT? What finally tipped the scales for you? Keep learning, keep experimenting, and I'll see you in the next explainer.